Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unk and Market Monk. Morning, P. How was your week?
Really good. Just biggest one I just had to wait on was Square, which I just thought I was pretty high conviction on that. So that was my best, pretty much my best setup of the week. And then John Deere, just kind of hung in his zone, and then popped late in the week. So lot of stuff like that. Caught the drop on some SaaS stocks that were kind of in sympathy with Palo Alto, like Crowd, and those came back really strong. And then the semiconductor complement trades, worked well. So I wasn't in Nvidia or anything, but just did catch a lot of upside just based on things that were moving with it. So it's a good week overall for me.
Yeah, not to bring too much of my personal stuff to the main stage, but a little bit of hellish week with the health for me. Kind of limited in my trading. Kind of talk if you're, not able to be there consistently or consistently the way you like to be there to not trade, and definitely stuck to that rule for the most part of the week. Kind of scaling into stuff I was already in and letting go of stuff that I'm over or that has met my goals. Kind of picked that up from you recently. Like if you get the move and it's years in advance in some of these cases, or
Yeah.
6 months in advance, just take the money. Um, but yeah, yeah. So I mean, not a horrible week, but a horrible week for me. I guess trading went okay.
Yeah.
Trading start was okay, but just the effects on life. Full disclosure, man. Then Nvidia. I mean, I talked about it all the time. I thought about it in my sleep, and a big part of just my anxiety is coming from that being so big. And sometimes you just gotta, fix that for yourself because emotions will destroy you in this game. So, um,
Yeah. Well, and I think too that with the way you got out, before earnings, I mean, kind of Nvidia beating earnings, not surprising. The reaction to it that you just don't know. I mean, even when it first got announced and after hours, it dipped like 4% or something. I mean, if you're in some huge position and you see that's not a great feeling. I mean, given where it came from, it had already, had this 10% drawdown going into it. So even though it moved and then went to all-time high, I don't think who wants to sit through that? I mean, with your full position.
yeah, not
That's
not it,
crazy. I just
not
don't.
it.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not nearly the same kind of stock or even like position size or anything. But for me, like Net and Roku, same deal. Like Roku, I didn't get the top on it back when it made that move, but pretty close. And that extra $7 a share wasn't worth knowing what it could end up doing and then what it has ended up doing, and we're right back to where my level was. Um so no, I think, yeah, the taking the win, and just having the we hit on the, you talk about like the ones that go are to our target months ahead of time, years ahead of time, just knowing that you're going to find something else,
Yeah,
it's just kind of what keeps me going and not worrying about it. And it's good. It's good to be ahead of schedule like that. It's you have to be open to it. You have to be open to the fact that could happen, and you just don't change. You don't want to change your targets and your mindset just because it happened faster than you thought it would.
yeah.
That's always worked for me
I
anyway.
mean, we've been doing this for a while. We've been doing this for a while together, and still trying to stick to keeping the separation of trading and investing for me. Like I don't like to cross those streams. Um,
Yeah,
maybe there is sometimes you just put it away and invest, but I mean, this isn't my first NVIDIA trade that I've done well on. But that's something I'm still trying to master for sure. It's just like, when the day trades kind of do float over to the investment side and just how to kind of psychologically manage that. Um, because NVIDIA was well, not a day trade, but it was a swing trade for me. It's just what it was. And again, I won on it before. I won on it real big here, and I'll probably win on it again. Um, but just getting the process in your mind right for that kind of stuff. Because yeah, it becomes overwhelming. It really does. Um,
Yeah, I mean, well, here's my example of this. You know, MSTR, like I was on that very early, and I got on it because I actually was trading the downside from around, it was like 480 something like that. Um, pretty much to the bottom under 200, and then our crypto thesis changed last year, and got back into it. Had a decent share position, under $250. Well, I kind of like, part of me wants to just keep that, be an investor in it and all that. But at the same time, when the stock goes to 700 and then under 500, it's like, you know, that's hard. That's hard to sit through that. So I pretty much have not. I mean, I just, on that run to 700, I pretty much got out. I got a couple of shares left, but um, yeah, I just don't want to sit through range like that. And
yeah.
a lot of the stuff, the reason that it is so good to us and for us, is because it makes those huge moves up, and it's going to go back and test things. I mean, even some of the like Snow, or even something better like Salesforce. I mean, they've just gone so far beyond what I thought they would. Or Crowd, you just got to take your money, and then Crowd has this day like the other day, it drops 10% with Palo Alto earnings. It could have earnings and it could drop 20-30% itself. There's nothing, wrong with the company in that. It's just, you get up to these levels, constantly meeting and exceeding those expectations is rare. And Nvidia is pretty much the only company really even doing it right now. So so I think that even on the investment side, you do, kind of tend to want to take some off the table.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
a plan going into it, like VU or VTI is maybe the stuff that you just don't ever really, that you have more of the decade or 20-year horizon, or your retirement account or whatever. But yeah, individual names, we're almost too good, sometimes. I mean, we're just getting such incredible moves there that it loses its appeal to just hold through it when you see the pullback starting to
This
materialize.
would be a good transition here on this. Like, just even like how I kind of, I don't know a good word, but how I walk through Roku with you, like pretty much the whole
Yeah,
way. Like, but that wasn't my trade, right? I'm like on the sidelines, armchair quartering back. When you get into your trade, it's a completely, I mean, I called NVIDIA like 650 be the perfect pullback. But when it's your money, when you finally make it and it's good money, it's a different ball game
yeah,
to apply those same rules that you preach. And even for me, um, and I think that's what here's your pivot. I think that's what our room does is it puts you in those situations regularly where you have to figure it out yourself. I mean, anyone can tell you to
yeah,
buy something. Anyone can tell you, you know, to pick a spot here and then the coin flips and they look like a genius. But if you don't figure out like how you're gonna react when whatever number in your head is big pops up on your screen, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Eventually, you'll be the guy that I posted that was up. He got up to like 100K and he dropped back down to 60 because you just get in your own head. So um,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
big part of what we do is figuring that out for you, not only in what I've always said, we don't say it enough anymore, a safe environment. I mean, we find some of the safest trades on the market. It's real hard to get bagged on some of our stuff unless the thesis changes. I mean, we're very rarely
yeah.
like just downside wrong. We're not telling people to buy Roku at 100. We're not. I remember Coin 100. We were like telling people to protect their neck, um, because it's just about that safety and then learning yourself in a process
Well,
or in the process
yeah.
while you're learning.
Here's the deal about Coin. 120 was safer than 100,
Yeah,
and I that sounds counterintuitive, but that's
the
exactly
truth.
how it
The
works,
truth.
because it was precarious at 100. But once they got that 120 and that level, established, I mean, mostly through, it was option driven. But I had some confidence in that level at that point, and I would not buy shares at 100, but I did buy them at 120. Just because of the way that the setup materialized. So Just that's part of our deal too. Like cheaper is not always better. And I mean, especially there are charts that completely broke down that we didn't have much confidence to enter until they actually prove something. And Open's a good example. I was in really small way when it was way down, and then now it's a lot easier to trade. Fubo's the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of a big that's that safety aspect. And so part of safety is like you're not going to get the best price or the exact bottom on something. You have to be patient. You have to let the setup actually materialize, and that's when you get in. And we're still early, but we're not. But early can be, is just another word for wrong if you're bagged on something.
No, 100%.
So
Now,
yeah,
I kind of use my son as a comparison. I mean, we all know he's in SoFi pretty heavy, and he's just like, I'm going to check it in 10 years. And um, that's a different style. It just is. We're room focused on heavy DD that day trades. I mean, that's what we are. We're day traders. We trade every day, right?
yeah,
That's the thing. So, and that's what people like. I mean, people aren't here to invest for the most part. They're looking for people to help them with the day trading because they see value in it. Avoiding those coin flips like they do in the other, in most other rooms via alerts, I think is just
yeah, like
not palatable for most people, but it's what you're gonna need if you're gonna be successful. I mean, if you're trying to take $1,000 to 5 grand this month for some reason and then move on, those other rooms might be better for you. But if you're trying to like learn some flipping skills and like be able to do this for yourself and in the long run and then not do a lot of the DD, I mean, I don't know anyone that's on the planet that's better than us. I really don't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. And I think one thing too, the the best way to use our work. Kind of want to talk about that,
yes,
a little
yes.
bit. I do think that there is a point where where people they want to bring like a stock that they like or that they see and they're curious about and they want to ask about it. But there's just so much that we have here posted already that if you're learning, I think you want to start with those and every week, the hot list or ones from the hot list that you learn and like study. And if there's something that we talk about a lot, there's usually a reason for it. And those are some of the ones that are best to learn. It's not, you don't just find the stock that's down 30% in a week and say, hey, what's up with this? When are you going to buy it? Whatever. I don't. That's not a good use of your time or our time to really do that. When you actually can get to a point where I think you're bringing your own plays into the room is when you can give us a comprehensive account of why you like it that is either based on option flow or TA. So I think that's to me that part of the anatomy of a good question the first thing is does it actually build on things we're already posting? That's the number one thing.
Yeah,
And then the second.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, and the other thing too, the macro, environment in the way that operates, with the stock. There are stocks where that truly does not matter at all to anything I'm looking at with it, because it's already kind of past that test. Carvana is the example I'm thinking of.
Yes.
So I answered a lot of questions about Carvana and going out of business and just being a horrible company and a shit co and whatever. When they're that first move that they made, the company survived back then. That was when that was the question. And so now it's much more about this option environment and the setup and like the squeeze potential and all that. All of that was kind of cooking into this earnings that nothing about the company's day-to-day operations was really going to affect that unless there was just a disaster in earnings. Instead, it's just like, our losses are better. We're optimistic about, A, B, and C or whatever. So as far as a trade goes, none of that stuff mattered. And it's different in a different sector, in oil or something like that, where I'm much more focused on that environment. But that's where you got to kind of know what you're trading. And assumptions about macroeconomics have been killing traders for over a year. So I think that that has to be a secondary aspect that you look at. There's a reason that we're on option flow and your approach to TA, and that we combine those two, and that those operate within catalysts and news and everything else. But the starting point, it is and has to be that option flow TA combo if you're going to consistently win in trades, and that's what we're doing in this room.
I go a little bit of unk here. I apologize in advance, but it just is what it is, man. I'm confident in what I do. I guarantee no one is looking at as many charts as me and anywhere, anywhere. No one is looking at as much
Yeah,
news as me anywhere. If I disqualify something, it's because it's not flipping safe. The only thing anyone is bringing to this room outside of you is spy stuff and maybe a sympathy play on something we're already on. Like we'll bring up crypto or oil and they ask, hey, what about this? But a fresh, dry,
yeah,
brand new play, it ain't it here, boss. I guarantee you I got it
yeah,
covered. And it's a little bit, I don't want to say disrespectful, but it's off putting to question that I'm not doing the work. I go through 500 charts every single week. I'm reading like 4 different news sources every morning at 4:30 a.m. for an hour and a half a day. You think I'm missing something that you're going to find? No, it's just not happening. And that's what I've built my trading career on and what I've built this room on and what I've built our relationship on is that I'm going to outwork
yeah,
anybody in this room. I've only said it one time that we've been together. I used to say I'm the hardest worker in the room until I found you. And that's why we're together is because you work just as hard, but I have more time. So the volume just no one is matching that volume. So, and the guy that comes in that's that does 2 or 3 hours of work a week and thinks he's going to find something better, safer, and more effective than us, it's off-putting to me.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think if someone's gonna, like, if you're new to trading and like you see like Twitter all over, the latest one was the lunar rover stock,
yeah,
right? That
sure.
I didn't even wasn't on my radar, but or a bio or something. Learning that lesson of like, well, why don't we trade this? Why aren't we looking at this biotech up 100%? And we don't really talk about those. I'm fine with that question because I think like at that point it's like this thing's really moving. It doesn't meet our checks, so what's going on. That's kind of how you learn the process. But just coming into it with why aren't you guys on this, or hey, I brought up this stock and nobody traded it. Sad deal, even though they didn't really mention it. Then that kind of thing. We don't need that. I mean, that's just not part of what we're
No, and like the bio
what we're
one,
doing here.
the bio one's easy, and y'all can go find your own goddamn CRBP. Me and Professor already did that, and it wasn't even together.
Yeah,
So I
right,
mean,
right.
like you can go do that yourself. For me, I see it again. I see it all. I have a system that scans for high volume. You don't think I don't see it?
Yeah,
What I don't
yeah,
see is what I need to see in level two in the news and overall to bring it to the room. So it just stays out because the stuff that we find again back to our roots, and I don't say this enough, it's just safer. It's just a lot
yeah,
safer. I mean, if you want to play momentum plays, holler at me. I'll drop them, but they're 50-50 coin flips, and you guys got to know that going in. And I don't think anyone else is going to say that. So we stay away from it because we just don't want 50-50. We want our ratio to be way more. I mean, I say 3-1 all the time. That sounds like 66-33. If you get 4-1, now you're 75-25, right? So I want a way better
yeah,
ratio than 50-50. And that's just what I've built my trading style on. And again, our room is based on that. And I think we kind of sum it up in one word. You're going to have to trade the boring stuff. Sorry. But Carvana's not boring.
yeah,
Coin's not boring. Tesla's not boring. So as we evolve, we do get some of the sexy stuff, but that's not every single day. If you want to trade every single day, it's gonna be some boring shit. It just is. And we've I don't want to say mastered, but we've graduated to college on that. We're college level now. We're not freshmen, we're not juniors, we're not seniors. We're college level people on it now, and I think we've proved our point along the way. for the most part in that
Yeah.
regard. Another little transition. Man, why aren't we diamond hand in your plays? I I mean, if you want to diamond hand something, I mean, I learned Professor isn't as uh, vibrant as me. You're kind of dull, but there's certain things you
Yeah, yeah.
say. There's certain things you say that you just know that you're excited about it. You mean like, you
Right,
know,
right.
and some of these have been. I mean, if you want to talk about some generational wealth, some of your entries on some of this stuff. If you would have diamond handed some of your stuff, not that I'm for that, but man, you would do really well. You would be way up right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I know, like,
What stands out to you on that side, like in your head, as not so we don't put it on other people. What in your head you're like, man, I should have just held on to that, or I'm glad I did hold on to that.
um, Abercrombie and Fitch is one that came up. So A&F, I got in under 20, and I sold the last of it at 90. I didn't have much left, but I guess I just sort of was a little bit in. This is an example of kind of macro getting to you that like this company doesn't have a reason to go up this much. It's $122 now, and so this is like the one share gang went $100 on a $22 stock. So that was one. A bigger one of mine that I have gotten back in. Elf we were in on really early. It was like $60, I think, when we got on that. 185 now. Monster was another one. The LW freaking potatoes, like, so. It's been quite a few like that, and
Meta,
then
Meta,
Meta. Yeah, yeah,
MSTR,
Meta.
Lily.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I got a list. I got a
Yeah.
list of why didn't I just diamond hand Professor plays? Um,
Yeah.
because I mean it's there, and I think I bring that up because um, you've proven it now. So maybe there is a spot for that going forward. When you do see it, because I mean you see stuff very
The
clearly because you follow big money.
Yeah, the first time this ever happened to me was Oxy.
Yes,
I
yes.
got it at 22 and $28. So yeah, and I think as far as that process being repeatable, yeah, I think it is. And
What
and the
what was our first play? Shit, that's a pun.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dave and Buster's play.
Twenty nine
Absolutely.
ninety nine specials. What we said on that thing. I think it was in the other
Yeah,
room too. I think that started in the other room, and
it did.
it's 100% from there. It is, and the flow reads are another 15-20% from there.
Yeah, and I mean in its recent it's recent history that 32 area, and then couple dips under 30, like you said. Yeah, and the what reason I keep talking about RRGB and Portillo's and stuff like that, like those are next. Like Wing's another one that I was on, not as early as good old menthol trader, but the but it just it just kept going. CMG freaking
Yeah,
burritos.
yeah.
I mean the MDB, like, and I keep those three come to mind just because the share structure and float size. Like this dude on Twitter was talking about how Wing is an example of the bubble. No, it's not. It's only, I mean, it's got 28 million shares. That's the first spot you look at, and then from there it's sector and insiders and whatever. But no, I mean you're putting Wing in the same sentence as Nvidia. You don't know anything about stocks when you do that, as far as pricing goes.
I'm a I'm
So
a
yeah, I mean that.
I'm a two line guy, and a lot of these damn charts that I got three lines on, they didn't come from me. I mean,
Yeah.
it plays the same way. Like, yeah, no, I don't. Go ahead, go ahead. I'm not going to say that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think this is a really good point. With SPY at all time high now, and tech, through the roof, and I don't know, ZS and CRM and like all these stocks like that, these charts that have checked out and are just kind of gone, that turned into just option trades now. Focusing on what they're doing in options and what to do when they do have a big pullback like Palo Alto. That's a big part of what we do. But also staying on the process that how I found LLY. Like that is a big focus of mine, and not putting pressure on myself to just find the next share side multi-bag or whatever in large caps, but just understanding what it was that brought me to those, seeing that in other sectors, seeing that in other stocks. That's important. And then I think for people who enter some of this stuff, they're real quick on the good questions thing.
Yeah.
I sometimes will say like, think summer, think fall. A part of that is to say like, stop bugging me about 2% drops in the stock. It's not that kind of it's not that kind of setup. Like that's going to happen, and if you're going to be in it, you have to be prepared for that. There's certain stocks you don't enter. I'm going to make money today. The thing about us is I say summer or fall, probably in April it's probably going to take off.
Yeah.
It usually happens before what I say. I try to undersell it in that way, but I think just in terms of mindset, the things that you're going to go in and plant a flag and it needs to go up in the next 15 minutes. That's one kind of trade. There's others you build a position and you just freaking wait, and it will work out for you. And we have done this so many times now that I think that you have to make that part of your mindset. That's a swing trader mindset, and I think that a lot of people do kind of struggle with that.
Two quick points to just kind of bounce off the good question part of this. 90% of the time, I mean, I'll go 85 just to keep it, so we don't argue about it. But 85% of the time, I get a question about anything that's moving or has moved, or especially when it has moved to the downside. My answer is stock. Just go look at the hour chart, because they're so focused on the smaller time frame. If you just go look at the hour chart,
Yeah.
you'll see that that's just the last day and a half. It's not even a pullback. It's just consolidating. Like it's really not a pullback until the trend changes on the weekly. I say it all the time. Um, and you have to get that over. You have to get that in your mind. And the second thing, if you don't have time, if you are time crunched a little bit, you only have a couple hours, that's fine. What's not fine is constantly looking backwards at what you missed. You don't have enough time to
Yeah.
waste looking backwards. Everything you do needs to be forward thinking. You have to let go the backwards, and that's going to lead you to like everything you're saying. That's going to put you in the mindset to do those things that you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so like for me, like people always ask me about sizing. I don't actually plan to really ever change my option trade sizing. I don't care how big this gets for me, because there's just too much. It just changes psychologically. It's too much for me. But for me, the focus on sizing is a bigger piece of these longer term setups that we find, and managing those kinds of trades, and those are shares. And so in terms of growth, I think that's kind of where people should be. Don't try to turn an options trading account into six figures. I don't think that works. I think the people who talk like that are full of shit. I think they have big subscriber bases. That's where that money came from. And it's all about the narrative. A lot of those big wins, they're playing both sides and they post the winner. And you don't have that luxury if you're putting your own money into your trading account. So
No, that's
I would
why
really caution people about that.
I mean, the percentage of sizing. I mean, my system kind of skews that because I only trade with a certain portion of money. We all know 45K. I've been there a million times. I, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not going to change. And the reason for that is even if I blow that up tomorrow, it goes to zero. Like that's not even close to my account. It's just my day trading account. And I think separating that, whatever you're comfortable with, if you have like, let's say you have 30 grand or 40 grand, like total, that's what you have. you probably should be only day trading with like 10, maybe 15% of that. And then
Yeah.
just kind of stay in that system until it produces. And I really wouldn't size up much until you know the that number also matches your account. Like, okay, I used to just trade with like 5% of my total net worth. What is that now? And I mean, other than that, I really wouldn't size up. And that for me keeps the emotions down, and they're still pretty high. I mean, it just is what I couldn't imagine somebody that had again like 10, 20K, they turn it into 50 and now they're trading with 50K. That just makes no sense to me. Um, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of people skip over that fact because they just want to they call it compounding gains, but you don't
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not day trading. That's an investing strategy. It's not for day trading at all.
Yeah, and most of those options dudes, that full account's going into trades every day. Like and so like that's why that at 1 p.m. that's why they're doing the $30 SPY contracts because that's what they got left. They got $90 left and they're gonna buy three of those calls and try to catch the move at the end of the day. Um, it's just not a good way to live. I don't think.
That's why
It's not healthy.
probably why they stay on options too, to be honest with you, because the funds settle a little faster over there. Shares time, it takes a couple
Oh yeah,
days. It
yeah,
takes a couple days. You can't
yeah,
full port your account because you can't trade the next day. I mean,
yep.
that's just
No, that's true.
another thing they kind of hide behind, or not hide behind, but that's another thing they build their system
Well,
on that just is not going to last.
so you want to see them tell on themselves, wait for a day that's a banking holiday when the market's open because the funds don't settle,
So,
but the market's open. And they're like, and they're not, they got nothing to trade with because they're still waiting on their money to settle.
no, yeah. Eventually you see through it all. The higher you get, the clearer
Yeah.
view you have for sure. Let's
Yeah.
rotate a little bit. I know I was being a dick in the morning about time here because we've been going long on these, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
let's get into some macro stuff. Just want to ask you a couple questions. You don't have to go
Mhm.
too deep into it, but risk on, risk off right now. I kind of feel personally like um, with the pennies. I mean, we're on a few of them. And this is why I mention it to people. Like the shitty pennies with potential. I don't. I'm of the mindset we might not be good here until summer. Like they might have a
Yeah.
slow start of the year into summer. Um, they're not grinders for the most part. Those things are rangy. Even Fubo, that's a good example. Like that checking back to $1.50 is totally possible. It was $1 a year ago in April. So I mean, you kind of got to understand the chart, but we both believe in the long run, it's probably a 8 to double digit stock easy. And I'm just kind of wondering how your opinion is on the risk on risk off stuff right now because it kind of seems like that like people want a little more stability in let's just say in this quarter.
So yes, and so my basket of stocks that I use to judge this is different, but it's telling me the same thing, and that is your kind of your Kathy Wood type stuff that is not really catching much of a bid right now, and your your Twillos and your Rokus. I do kind of like Roku, but the I do see things kind of risk off. I think I've been on this IWM thing on Twitter. I've been making people mad that they think IWM is just primed for this massive move. I don't really see that. I don't see it in options. And I think, this idea that why is someone going to rotate out of the NVIDIA and Microsoft and LLY and like, why are they going to rotate out of those into small caps? What is it that's going to make them do that? I think that the safety stocks are still tech mega caps for a lot of people. And I've been kind of waiting for staples to catch on, and you know that is going to take some time too. We've talked about real estate and solar. You know, real estate's better than solar, but the point is that until the environment changes, where the story is the rate cuts, I would be careful about a lot of these smaller, unprofitable names. And to me, the pain trade, people use that term a lot. The pain trade is actually for Nvidia at all to like consolidate and move higher. more so than that money just pouring into the stuff that got left behind. So the breadth question, I think it gets worse. That division gets worse before it gets better. And so I'm kind of with you on summer as the thesis there.
Perfect, perfect. And this China news, want to touch a little bit on that because I don't think anyone's talking about that currently, but they're setting some pretty strict or they're threatening pretty strict regulation on basically short-term investing. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
Do you think that money comes this way?
Yeah. So one of the things I saw was not even just restrictions on short selling, but like like you can't sell it open, kind of
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
a lot of rules like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I still think American stocks are where you want to be, and we kind of dipped our toe into China a bit, and there are a couple of those charts that I think are in a pretty good spot, but I think people misconstrue a lot of these rules, like a short selling ban or whatever the whatever impact that has that's positive is offset by that kind of extra layer of fear that people have about getting into those because it's like why do they have to have all these rules to prop their own stocks up. So yes, I think of this dude Ross Gerber, he's kind of a clown in some ways, but he had a video about 18 months ago where he just said like there's no other game in town, that it's American stocks. You know, you can invest in Microsoft, Nvidia. He's big on Tesla. Tesla hasn't been as good, but the point stands. I think it was actually a good point that people are constantly trying to find the next big thing, the BRICS story and all that, where the strength still is U.S. stocks, and I do kind of see where you're coming from um, with that. That I think you just want to be careful elsewhere. You're still much safer. The bigger the stock, the more American the stock. Like you're safer over here, and I think that should continue to be the focus.
Just a quick point before, I mean, way off, not off topic, but review here before we get into your side of things on micro. But the EV sector or my alt energy sector, which it's pretty expansive, it includes chargers and the EVs and solar, all that stuff's in there.
Yeah,
Tesla's the blue chip, and I kind of learned this from you. Like if the blue chip ain't doing good, either everything's gonna lift with it, or it's gonna hold everything down. Right, right. You're gonna lose market cap from the blue chip, and everything's gonna come up, or that's gonna be the only one making it, and the rest are just gonna die because there's only one place people want to be. And Tesla's a great example of that right now. It's holding on where the rest, everything else in my alt energy sector is just flipping dying. It's just they're not profitable from solar to chargers to all the other EVs. But noticing
yeah,
that sooner and just being patient, I think, is very important. That was just the
yeah,
point.
absolutely. It's solar's kind of my baby here, just because it was started with Enphase, to the upside, and then have just caught it all the way down. It's been my only short position. But you just look at, I said the other day, I was like, whales are losing patience with blue chip solar. And Enphase had made a nice move to the upside on earnings. It's pretty much giving it all back. And then you look at Nova, which I did sort of like, but I was just watching. It dropped 30% on earnings, and then it dropped 13% the next day. On the EV side, Rivian 20%, and then 10%, the next day. So not only are you getting crushed on the initial earnings move, it's the secondary move down, and then these charts just die. Uh, I don't. I got nothing on Nova now. I mean, that could end up being $3 or something like that. So the in solar in particular, you've got First Solar earnings next week, but until that environment changes, rates come down. You get big government programs pumping into it. They're gonna really struggle, and a lot of these companies are just not gonna make it. I don't think so. Um, I wouldn't be looking to buy the dip in in these struggling sectors. When Rivian did that drop, the first thing that happened to me, I get DMs about buying it, and um, that that mindset is just not going to work over the next couple months. You got to stick to the winners, and even though it's hard to find a spot in some of these charts that have checked out, well then maybe just maybe just sideline some money then if you don't feel comfortable doing that. But I don't think you're going to win buying the dip on sectors that are down for a reason. And your alt energy is the perfect example of that.
Yeah, no, that Rivian, I forgot what tweet I mentioned, but I pretty much made that point about Tesla and Rivian last week, and it was before
Yeah.
earnings. That was even before earnings, and it definitely came to fruition a lot earlier than I thought on that chart, because they're big moves down. Um, what boring shit you got for me today?
All right. So gold is boring, and the thing about gold is you look at gold futures and up almost 1% Friday, still over 2,000. We're at 2050, and the divergence between the price of the mining stocks and actual gold is big. And what I think my approach to DD and gold, that some of the pure miners I think are going to continue to lag and struggle, and a lot of that has to do with just the structure of their leases or whatever foreign government they're dealing with, or whatever. But if I think you want to look to the stocks that are involved more comprehensively in the process. This actually applies to crypto too. That you have your pure crypto miners, and then you have your stocks that are in like crypto services. Well, in gold, it's not just getting it out of the ground. It's distributing it and holding it and selling it, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I bring that up to say I don't think the sector is just full send. I think that you want to be careful. You need that extra layer of DD. And as far as silver goes, I like the gold silver combo stock. So we kind of have plenty of those. So optimistic about the sector, but there's going to be some small caps that get left behind. So that'd be my caution there.
Yeah, no, the gold charts, I think that's where we disagree. I don't like silver, but the gold charts and the combo charts and the miners right now, they are ready on my end. That's why
Yeah.
it's like I have to say something, but I just have certain sectors. I mean, you're never gonna see me call oil first. You're just not. I know my lane. I know who's good at it, so I leave that one to the oil expert. And the same with crypto. I mean, at this point in time, you read. I may have found all the crypto charts, but you read them so much better. I just keep it simple and focus on Bitcoin, the price of it,
Yeah.
and trade what I know. Um, I last point on the crypto, we absolutely nailed the real stocks that have crypto influence. It was Hood, Square, and PayPal. And
Yeah.
PayPal has its own issues, but the other two, man, from when we said that they're up I mean, they're up 50%. Those two are up 50% since we said that. And those are 9 out of 10 names on the street. So um,
Yeah. I was
having that overall thesis, I think, is important. Like who's the real winners in the long run.
I was pounding the table on Hood. I mean, we had our kind of original lines on that, but even recently, under $11 into ER. Now it's 14.50. So you're in good shape there, and it's like Hood can come back, check back down, and visit our line again. But if you're in it, you've scaled out, you have some free shares. This can definitely keep going because you get into that. I talk about this all the time. That kind of that original gap of an IPO's downfall.
Yeah.
When you finally break out of this range and you head into that, the moves can be pretty smooth to the upside, and it can happen quickly. Hood can be $18-20 pretty fast. So um, what I don't like on Twitter, like the people who talk about entering up here with that in mind, rather than the people who like I'm in this, it's already a win. and this is house money, and I'm just gonna, have a plan to see where it goes. You want to be on the early side, and so that's what we've been trying to do.
100%. I couldn't agree more. It's a great example. I mean, this even to look at the weekly chart, that it's gonna have pullback, um,
Yeah,
because the company's in its infancy. It's gonna still learn, for the lack of better terms. And I don't know
the
any chart that just went. I mean, Tesla's a great example too. Tesla didn't go straight up from when it started. Nvidia, the other great example, it did not go straight up from when it started, but when they figure out and become sector leaders, they're innovative, they're going to be
have,
the cutting edge of the
have you
future.
seen
They're the ones.
have you seen the volume on 24-hour trading for Hood?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I mean, that was a winning idea. It really was. I mean, as degenerate and dumb as it is to me to trade stocks, when the market's not open, they caught on to what people want to do. So yeah, they're a long term winner, I think.
definitely. What else you got over there?
So natural gas. Want to talk about that and just kind of how that came about. So it pulled back almost 8%. We're back to 160. This could break down again. But we caught an excellent move on natural gas. And like, I kind of knew that was going to happen. I didn't know when that was going to happen. And because I didn't know when it was going to happen, I wasn't really that interested in UNG or Boyle. But the stocks with a kind of more stable base that are oil and natural gas stocks. And those were um,
Chesapeake, AR.
CRK, yeah, AR and Chesapeake, and so all three of those made a nice move, and like you were already green from our entry, when those happened. So that is kind of an evolution of my whole sector focus, is to just try to find that early stability, catch and move, and then be in it for this bigger move that I think is going to happen. Because I didn't know for those whether it was going to be a week, a month, whatever. But I knew our entry was good, and option side I didn't have anything before January, and then of course shares don't really have the time issue. So that was just a really good illustration of what we do with sectors, and I'm just going to still watch that sector. Natural gas is going to turn around, but it remains a very tricky sector to deal with, and you got to take your win in a lot of those as they come along.
Yeah, all I heard was there is Professor got an extra check just growing as a trader. That's really what I heard, and I love to see it because of where our relationship
Yeah,
started. I've always said you're going to be a better trader than me, or you have the potential to be a better trader than me. And like at this point in time, you're definitely standing right beside me, if not a little bit in front of me. And that stuff is what I really like to see from you, because if you get stuck in one system, um, it's you're gonna have pitfalls eventually because you're gonna get overconfident. So adding that extra check, extra layer to what you do continuously, yeah, nothing but positive from me on that. It really makes sense to everybody. I think you do a good job as a teacher, as a college professor, communicating that why to people.
yeah, yeah, and people did really well on those positions with how they managed them, and I didn't get the like I said, the questions, and I don't mean people to take this the wrong way, but it's, I'm like, why are you bugging me about this one? Um, because and it always happens with oil for some reason, that people really struggle to buy and hold oil, and they overreact to it, and it's like they're waiting for it just to collapse. Whereas in tech, they'll buy something with like supreme confidence that's way riskier at a much worse entry, and it's just like, well, this is going to turn around. This tech call I have that's $400 out of the money in 2 months. Yeah, they got earnings, so it could probably come back. Whereas like with Oxy, it dips 1%. It's like, is it done? So I don't know. I think take a look at your psychology with sectors, and um, I'm not going to say inverse yourself, but re-examine kind of what you're thinking, and maybe try to follow our lead to how we approach sectors. And I think you'll do well.
Oh, never. A simple rule for me there: try to stay away from what you're hopeful with. Like if you, I mean, it's hard to
Yeah.
trade stuff. Your thesis and your levels and everything be real good if it's going to be a trade where you're like you're really hopeful for that company because it's going to go up if you get proved right, and you're not going to be a day trader. You're going to turn into an investor, and it's just going to be a totally different ball game than what you actually
Yeah.
entered as a trade for sure.
Yep.
Especially options. Like I always say, you can't will shares. Are you going to will these shares to your kid? Like, are you going to hand them over? You definitely ain't willing option contracts to your kid. That's just not happening.
Yeah, and on the option, I encourage people with an option swing, pull up that option profit calculator. If you're on the red side of that, it's very hard to climb out of it. And even if it's down 40%, I'd maybe just go ahead and get out because you need such a big move just to get back to where you started. That and then the psychology becomes okay. Starting the trade over, we're good here. It's usually going to just dip right back down. So yeah, you don't want to get on the wrong side of that calendar because it every day that goes by gets worse. And weekends count too, by the way. Weekends do count for theta. I don't know if people know that, but keep that in mind as well.
You got one more before we go to spy here? Are you good?
Um, no, I'm good.
Okay.
That's all the free people get. So we'll go.
Love it. Fucking spy 510, huh?
Yeah,
510.
it's yeah. There's something happening in option side with spy where I don't know why, but they're not really starting a lot of what I would call plausible put positions. So I think that the read has changed to where it's like, where are they going to pump the brakes with calls and these kind of call walls that happen? And 510 is a spot where I think that's going to occur.
Our numbers
But that it's
last
got some trouble there.
our numbers last week. I had 493.17 on the bottom. 493.56 was the bottom. You had a little bit lower, but you also had the higher end. You were 504. I think our yes or no question was 500 again. Um, and
Yeah.
you were yes over 500. I was no, just to be because I just wanted the counter argument. 510 though, completely checked out in my opinion. It's starting to get hard for me to find levels up here in my system. So, I pull numbers out my ass at this point in time. That's kind of what it's starting to feel like. I like a little bit more sideways chart when I'm picking levels. I like to have consolidation. So this is getting
Yeah.
really, really hard to pick accurate levels up here. And I don't know how if it is on the option side, if that's the same or if it's the other way where money is trying to defend itself
Yeah.
up here so you can see
So
a little better.
when when we caught the when we caught that January dip and then moved pretty well, we did excellent in October, and in both of those cases, the puts were very useful to me. Like in January, I'm like, okay, 460 is bid side, but 465, 470, it's kind of ask side. So I do think we break down below 470 and then we, go higher. And that's what happened. Um, Now I look out to April and there is some April, here. Yeah. So, okay, April 410p. That's ridiculous. Heavily bid side. They're just selling that, and then I'm like, okay, so 430 is around, uh, kind of ask side, but I mean that's a $50 contract for that far out. So there's not much they're doing with it on that end. So it's all shorter term. I'm not seeing big fat positions that hit 100,000 volume in a day where it's like they're planting a flag and they're gonna bring it down to this level. Instead, it's just like they're walking it up and checking it down, walking it up, checking it down. So range is pretty tight for me this week. I'll go ahead and go first.
Okay.
The so like for Monday's puts, 507 does stand out. I think they might kind of try to take that in the money, and then on the upside, there's There's 510. That's just for Monday though. So I'm going to go a little bit further out here. I'm going to say 495.58
Down
for the downside.
58. Okay.
And I'm going to say 511.40 for the upside.
1140. Stupid unk option question before I pick. You can see what's
Yeah.
basically on the table because of open interest, right? Like that's the stuff that's out there,
Mhm.
correct? Would you
Yeah.
say there's a lot out there, but there's not a lot being added right now? Is that kind of where it's at?
Yes.
Or
So here's an example of that. Of the top three contracts are basically cooked. So it's 419, 410p, 315, 410p, and 315, 415p. Irrelevant contracts all over 250% or 250,000 open interest, and those are all done. And so they get like 100 new buyers a day or something like that. So yeah, I mean the open interest, the entire thing of the top 20 contracts is puts, and there's just not much they can do with these. They're just too far out of the money.
but
Nothing
they're
over 430.
but they're already on the table, basically. They're not,
They're already on the table.
yeah, they're not adding vigorously right now. They're like kind of holding the line, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
496.04. Simply put, you see it on the screen. It's my 1 year, 20-day volume profile. I was a little kind of worried that was too much downside, but Professor went 495. So yeah, I mean, I'm higher than that on that. So that clears it up for me. The top, I think the week that Nvidia had was why we ran so far. So I don't see us breaking the high that we currently had, which was what 410, or excuse me, 510.13. So I'll just take that. I'll just take the 510 69 shout out goose for my top. So we're pretty close, to be honest with you. I have a little tighter range, but if
Yeah.
we're both going to be right next week, if one of us is, that's just what it is on
Right.
that. So I guess we'll go there one more time because I think it's the better question right now, to be honest with you, than trying to pick these levels. SPY finish above 500 this week.
No, I'm gonna say no this time.
No, all right. And I'm 50-50, so I'm just gonna take the other side. The only reason I may be 60-40 on that. There is a lot of, and we didn't touch base on it. We'll save it for the other side, but there is a lot of earnings. And I still think a lot of them have low expectations. So you could see some people blowing those out of the water and kind of keeping this thing afloat here for another week or two.
Yeah. And so one one thing that's happening right now in SPY in particular, indicator traders are not doing very well because if you look at SPY on the day chart, it's pretty much been overbought since November. If you just look at RSI on like the daily, except maybe January, it did dip down a bit in January, but yeah, I mean, if you were just going on that, I mean, it was overbought at $434, and now it's 507. So I just I think that purely going on those indicators, it's been rough for people, and that's why you're seeing a lot of those Twitter people struggle because I think a lot of them do kind of center their trading on that.
Weekly chart RSI is 75. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's fucking
yeah, I know.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
It's ridiculous. All right, you ready to get to work, sir?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, wait. Like, subscribe, follow. What
Oh
else?
yeah,
What
yep,
more?
yep.
All that stuff.